right, even from bottom up, this is a transfer of functions. Because what you're implementing or you're proposing is to implement Article 187 of the Constitution. You're implementing Article 187 of the Constitution without agreeing to it that you're implementing it. Because one, there's transfer of function, there is funding of these projects, there is coordinating of these projects, and there is implementing. So if you're funding, if you're coordinating, and if you're implementing, then you have already taken all the functions of that county government. Because operation, you have the operational control, and control means exercise of that function. So I think you need to bring it out clearly. By either one, we accept that you're implementing Article 187. And if I can go to Article 187, very fast, Madam Chairman, it says that, yes, 187.1, a function or power of a government at one level may be transferred to a government at the other level by agreement between the government. So that one is allowed by the law. But if you read Article 187.2, it says, if a function or power is transferred from a government at one level to a government at the other level, constitutional responsibility for the performance of the function or exercise of the power shall remain with the government to which it is assigned by the fourth schedule. So if there is cooperation and you're funding, then the functions or the responsibility shall remain with the Nairobi County government. So I would want Bwana Waziri to show us if there is one project that you have funded, that you have coordinated, but the county of Nairobi has control of it. That is one. Two, this is another NMS with a good name or with a good structure, maybe I can say that. NMS left a pending bill of about 16 billion. So is this corporation looking into that pending bill of 16 billion that was left by the national government through the corporation that was there, that is NMS? And are we going to experience the same when probably you exit this corporation, the county government will be left with a huge amount of pending bill? Three, Chair, what if other counties demand the same? We have Nakuru, we have Mombasa, we have Kisumu, all cities, and we even have Kiambu that is also expecting to be a city very soon. If they demand the same, will they get the same amount of money? And if they do, will they get the same structure? And if this structure is there, that is headed by the Prime CS, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, who is heading the coordinating committee, which is a parallel kind of government, would we have all counties experiencing the same, having you now spearheading all the counties, assuming we were to get this kind of coordination? That means we are creating a governor of all the governors. That is my thinking. Because if this coordinating committee, we're going to control what the counties are doing. So my point is, this cooperation has been done without the Senate approval, has also been done without clear transfer agreement safeguards, and also it lacks legal clarity. And Chair, finally, the 7 white papers that Bwana Waziri has indicated are also not binding. They depend on the goodwill from the executive because they do not have any legal backing or policy. So my question is, we only have 24 months to execute this cooperation. What if the next president comes in and probably wouldn't want such an agreement or would want to enhance it? What are the safeguards when it comes to this agreement? And why 24 months? Why don't we just put it within the law? We agree it's transfer of functions, proper public participation is done, and then nobody is objecting on Nairobians getting a bigger share of any funds so that they can implement, make sure it's secure, sanitation is fine, infrastructure, nobody is objecting. What I would object myself, and I believe, Chair, you do so too, is that we need a clear guideline within the parameters of the law. That is my submission, Chair.
Thank you so much, members. I think next time, please, I want you to ask that question so that the Prime Secretary, Cabinet Secretary is asking for another meeting. So we want to take the shortest time possible. So I think I will hand over to you, Honorable PCS.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I also want to appreciate the comments and queries raised by the members. I think they're all very useful in getting clarity around this thing. First of all, I just want to say that, Honorable Chair, it will be important that the concept white papers be shared with the committee, because a lot of the issues that are being raised are actually captured in the broader documentation of the concept. So to make it easier for all of us to be on the same page, we shall facilitate so that all the concept white papers are availed in detail to the committee, and this will help in clearing some of the concerns raised. The other thing that we indicate is that within the framework of assessing, this framework, remember, it's a cooperation framework. It's not the detail. The detail about implementation will be chaired by the governor of Nairobi. So when you are having a cooperation framework, you do not go into the detail of the implementation in a cooperation. You establish broad principles, and then the details of implementation are then worked out systematically. So I just wanted to make that clarification. I want to reemphasize again that the figure that we talk about, 80 billion, this is assuming we had the ideal situation. We would have to have 80 billion on the table. Okay, so we have costed that this cooperation framework for these specific areas, to have it implemented, then it would get to 80 billion. If we break down and ask ourselves, so what does Nairobi County get out of the revenue share? All county governments get about 400 billion Kenya shillings over the period. If you go backwards and then you ask yourself, then it is clear Nairobi County would not be able to raise this sum of money. So we need to find a different way of supporting them. And it's on this basis that we say that Nairobi being the capital city, it is the image of the entire nation, and that is why it's captured under the Urban Areas and Cities Act as the capital city, and it will call sometimes for special interventions. So the principle behind this framework is exactly that special status of Nairobi. And therefore, collaboration becomes extremely essential. Nairobi, as a city, entails 60% of our GDP as a country. Therefore, we cannot continue treating Nairobi the way we have treated it. It calls for special intervention as a country, as a nation, to be able to give it that status. And Honorable Chair, I just want to say that if there's anybody to be charged, not in a court of law, but charged for either failure to act, in the context of omission or commission, I think there is collective guilt for the entire country. Because over the years, and this is a very personal observation, may be right, it may be wrong. We have committed so much energy to the extent that we are not realizing, for instance, that Dar es Salaam Airport has become better than Nairobi Airport. That Entebbe Airport, after their extension, is actually better than Nairobi Airport. Rwanda Airport is better. If you go to Zimbabwe today, and Zimbabwe is facing sanctions from the Commonwealth, you land in Harare Airport today. It is now superior to Nairobi. You go to Angola, Luanda, their new airport is now superior to Nairobi Airport. I could go on and on. Go to Zambia, there's a change. Today, go and land in Zanzibar and look at the airport. So we have been living in past glory and not realizing that we need to invest in our capital city. Therefore, we need to have a clear and a strategy that can help us start correcting the situation. And therefore, when we talk about street lighting, Nairobi and others, they're already doing part of it, but they need help. We need to bring in the private sector. All these are captured in the concept paper, where we have shared partnership and engagement. When we talk of electricity, Honorable Kamal, on the last mile, it's amazing if we moved away from the CBD and now we went to Korogocho or Dandora, and we see how our citizens are connecting electricity in the informal areas. It is a time bomb. It is not right. We need to invest in better connectivity, more efficient, safer. And therefore, when we talk of this last mile, it is to get where the majority of Nairobians live. The majority of Nairobians are not in CBD. They're outside the CBD. We need to target and work for them. The issue of water supply, perennial water shortages still occur. We draw water from the dams that we have been building, but we need to increase this 50,000 cubic meters. And in the concept paper, it indicates it will not be the final solution. We are covering over a period. But when that is on, we'll also be planning for the next phase of water investment. The sanitation, Honorable Chair, the sewer capacity in Nairobi City has been inadequate. We will never clean up the Nairobi River, the Ngong River, unless we increase the capacity in the sea. And I think it would be important. I don't know if it's in order, Honorable Chair, that at the full courtesy of the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, I would be very happy that we take the committee, this very important committee, to a tour to just have a glimpse of actually the practical works that are going on towards trying to solve this issue. I think it would be very, very important. Away from the politics, away from whatever, just a focused, dedicated tour and inspection of the projects that are going on to appreciate the magnitude of this crisis. Solid waste management. It is true this has been with us for many years. And we have to address it. If we do not, we are going to have a problem. A bigger problem than what we have. Tokyo, as an example, generates about 40% of its power from solid waste. Tokyo, in Japan, where they have several plants from solid waste and it powers their city. And the byproducts are then used to create paving slabs, cabro, and everything from the process of that solid waste. And then you can also have fertilizer or manure developed from this. We are not utilizing the full value, and we need to realize that is the garbage waste, or can the garbage be turned into a gold mine? This is a question that we can answer, and that's why we need to invest together with the Nairobi City. The issue of urban security, I reiterate, it has to be collaboration. I know in the Act we talked of a joint security committee, collaboration between the county governments and the national police. They have an oversight security committee to get a feel of the security, but the law still gives the national police the greater responsibility. So what we are trying to do here is to also incorporate where we can invest jointly, also with the private sector, in technology, in intelligence transport systems, in intelligence systems that can help in dealing with the security situation as it is being done in other peer cities globally. Again, this is captured in the concept notes, which will be good for reading, and we are open to enrichment of these documents so that we can do better. Now, Honorable Gathangwa has raised a fundamental issue. We cannot roll back on devolution. The Act is very clear, the Urban Areas and Cities Act, that this is specific to the capital city. If indeed other cities required some special intervention, then this very committee would have to look into the law and see whether we should amend the law to give special status similar to the one that is given to the capital city in this context. Why do we make it a 24-month arrangement? Because it's about cooperation. And we give it that so that we can also review whether the framework will be yielding results or not. If it is not yielding results, then we rethink the approach. If it is yielding results, since it's an initial 24 months, the parties, that is the national government and the county government, will have the option to decide whether they want to have an extension or not to extend it. But I would not want to have a situation where we have a permanent contract, because it would then start looking like we are clawing back on devolution, and that should not be the situation. I just want to reiterate that we are fully in support of devolution. This is not a takeover. The implementation committee, which is the most critical, is chaired by the county government. The county assemblies must have oversight, and this particular framework agreement was also debated by the county assembly, and eventually they gave it approval, and they spoke to the issues contained there. So this is a framework. It's not the detailed document, and each specific area will have specific issues. For instance, I agree that roads, for instance, the highways and what have you, this is investment by the national government, either by Kura or by the national highway, Kenya National Highways, and it affects the Nairobi city. For instance, if I may give another example, the Nairobi Railway City is being planned. Cooperation between the county government, cooperation between the Ministry of Roads and Transport, cooperation with the railway, and support from the UKEF. This is the British government support to invest in modernizing the railway city and also the commuter lines, so that the ease of transport logistics can be achieved and we can ferry more people in and out of the city, all the way to Thika, to Riruta. The connectivity will come to the airport and even to the SGR, so that it becomes an integrated transport hub. All this to help in easing the challenges that Nairobi is facing. And, Your Honorable Chair, this cannot be achieved by the county government alone. We need collaboration, we need partnership. It calls for investments. As we do the other cities, yes, there'll be investment, but we cannot maybe engage in this unless the law was looked at differently. But Nairobi as a capital has been given that special status under the law. But that does not mean that other cities do not need intervention. They do. They do. But the scales will vary and the format will vary.
Chair, I just want clarification on a question I asked. And I think Tangwa also asked the how PCS. I think the governor told us there'll be monthly meetings around this planning. As he says, you have your functions, they have their functions. So if the joint teams are sitting and planning the water in Nairobi, planning the roads in Nairobi, what is the role of Nairobi on its own? The how is actually where the fear comes in terms of whether you are doing collaboration on that is limited, or whether you're actually joining with the county executive to implement county functions. I think it would be good for you to speak on that. Allow Chair for me to also add that this country has never properly planned the informal settlements. And I think the more population in Nairobi is in the informal settlements. And we can't say we are planning well if we are not planning for them. I particularly asked a question to Minister for Education, even public schools. are very limited, and yet the largest population is there. It would have been good to try, for the two teams to try and crack what it means to plan to facilitate equal services for citizens in the informal settlements. And then finally, the PPP Act also restricts county governments from being able to enter into PPP arrangements on their own. And I think Nairobi itself managed to get, there was an instance when they were able to get an investor to come in. But I think they had challenges in regard to the PPP department. So it would have been good to try and see how are we facilitating, not just Nairobi, how are we reorganizing the PPP arrangements so that I think there was a time like Laikipia wanted to raise its own funds, but they were again limited because national government would not let them do that. So all of those are important.
Thank you, Chair.
Go on record.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. May I first of all go on record? This is Senator Ezena Lemalitian from Samburu County. Chair, I just wanted to find out from the Prime Cabinet Secretary, one, on when the NMS police is going to be established, and a definite answer on whether, that's my second question, a definite answer on whether the pending bills actually involve the salaries for the previous staff from the NMS. And lastly, if history has been taken into consideration as far as the planning of Nairobi is concerned, because I see that in the White Paper 3, you have spoken about building permanent urban facilities and with non-negotiable infrastructure standard covering sanitation, waste management, security, water supply, formal electricity, and drainage, given the fact that originally Nairobi was formed in 1899, and it used to be a swamp for the Maasai to water their cows. Has that been taken into consideration to ensure that we will not be building castles in the air? And there are plans to decongest Nairobi because you have said that the congestion in Nairobi is in the informal sector. What if these informal sectors are actually built close to riparian lands, which over time have been, the rivers have reduced in size because of environmental degradation and other environmental factors? Is there a plan to move these huge settlements out of the city? Or are we going to continue building permanent structures, and the nature is very unforgiving? Thank you.
Chair. Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I think on the question that I had asked about other counties requesting for the same, I think I would request the Prime CS to rethink that answer, because giving Nairobi this special status because it has a capital city, it's nowhere in our laws, it's nowhere in the Constitution, because special status cannot override the constitutional structure. We have 47 counties. So yes, we do understand the Nairobi County houses our capital. Mombasa also is a port city. Kisumu could be the regional hub. Kiambu, agricultural, and even Nairobi's bedroom, the one we are talking about. So I think maybe the CS can show us where in the Constitution, where Nairobi is given a special mode of governance because it is a capital city. Because if we give Nairobi this advantage, not looking at other countries, that is discrimination. And again, we are now making devolution conditional other than constitutional. So I think there is nowhere in the law that gives Nairobi County ahead of other counties because it houses the capital city.
Yeah, maybe starting from where Kang was stopped, I had asked the question on whether we are rescuing Nairobi or the problem is actually that devolution has not given enough resources to all the counties. And I say this because in Schedule 4, health was devolved. But the Ministry of Health headquarters remains the way it was. We did not take the directors out of Avia House. Avia House is still as full as it was. The same thing with the Ministry of Agriculture, where I served as a public servant. Agriculture was devolved. Did the resources follow functions in that docket? Because Kilimo House is still, the same offices we used to visit are still the way they were. I'm asking this because is it possible that what you are curing in Nairobi will erupt in other places? Because if you can do sewerage, why not do sewerage in Thika? I'm saying this because is it that devolution is not working because the resources were not devolved or the resources did not follow the functions that were given, and that the only thing they can do is to support salaries to the tune of 75%? That was my last comment. Thank you.
Okay, I think maybe I can ask one more question, Your Excellency. Is that the rise in Nairobi rising has been formalized on 27th of February 2026. But of course, I have not seen any budgetary allocations or fiscal analysis, done for the 80 billion shillings or even continue for the next 2 years. We're now making our financial, we're making the finances, preparing our budgets now. So this thing has not, it does not appear in the county fiscal strategy paper, and it's not there in our policy statement. So I don't know how we want to move out funds, finance that money, that program. 2, Nairobi is actually currently turning to be more of an informal settlement area. There are a lot of rising buildings. You have, of course, seen what happened with the floods. So what is the plan of the government? Because Nairobi, as I rightly said, we've been overtaken by, the other countries that we left them many years back, way back, they have been far ahead behind us. So this thing, this city requires a serious intervention. And I think we need even a new city. Because the way things are, there are a lot of informal settlements actually coming up within the municipality, the CBDs. So I don't know what the government have, how much plan the government have for that. Not only the airport, even the city itself. Like the CBD is now, everybody's converging to this only one area. All the government services are here. The CBD, all services for, areas for shopping and all these things are coming back to the CBDs. So I think we need to open up this city, or probably have a new city for these guys to look better than what we are now today. Because Nairobi now has turned a kind of an informal settlement area. In the other world, you can see, of course, they're there, the other African countries. But of course, they are the peripheries of the cities. They're the area for expansion. Now, if you go to Kiambu side, you will have informal settlement. If you go to Kiado side, you'll have informal settlement. If you go to Thika side, you have an informal settlement. So I don't know why Nairobi will now expand on to look a better city and a beautiful city.
Chair, this is untidy, but a last one. Could we know where the department, the State Department for Devolution is based? Who's their minister? We've had conversations before, and we hear they don't have anybody to speak for them in cabinet on many issues that we've raised. In fact, I think we will believe before we meet, we were under the impression it was the DPL. We've never managed to get an appointment with the previous, the deputy president, with the previous or the current one.
Before, I think we'll add on that, Your Excellency. The committee has actually a concern. The State Department of Devolution remains hanging in the air. So they cannot present their papers and their policies to anybody, especially cabinet approval. Most of the times they struggle, they take it to the AG, and I think that is not very fair. For this, for devolution to continue and to progress, we need to have a substantive ministry under which the department will come in under, so they can be able to move with their policy issues and other points. It's actually a big concern.
Okay, thank you, Chair. On the legal issues, I'll defer to the lawyer in the room to elaborate on that particular aspect. So let me deal with the others, and then he'll respond to the legal, and I think he can elaborate a little more so that we are able to clear that. Now, one thing that, let me start with the Honorable Chair's comments. I don't think in Nairobi we can relocate and have another city. It has happened in Dar es Salaam. They were able to have a new capital in Dodoma. In Nigeria, they were able to move away from Lagos and take it to Abuja. But I would like us to remember the land tenure system that we have is different. Here, you are dealing with private-owned land. It was good for us. We went ahead, and a lot of the land within these urban areas belongs to Kenyan citizens. Whether you're moving into Kajiado, whether you're moving into Machakos, whether you're moving into Kiambu, whether you're going towards Thika. So even if you moved beyond that, you would be looking at expropriating people's land in order to convert and create a new city. I think that is not practical. And it would create a completely different ballgame. We have already seen what it costs the Kenya government or the Kenyan taxpayer to acquire land to do the SGR because it belonged to individuals. We all know what it costs when you want to do a road, the amount of compensation that you have to negotiate. So our land tenure system cannot provide a generic solution like the ones of Tanzania and Nigeria. Therefore, we have to look at Nairobi differently. What are the interventions that are really before us in terms of urban renewal and urban change? Let me give the example of affordable housing. When we look at a settlement like Kibera today, it is vast land basically on ground level. What is affordable housing beginning to do? It's beginning to have a situation where the density has been altered so that you go upwards and you start opening up the space. And as you do the urban housing, you improve the roads, you must improve the sewage, one of the things that will help us unlock Kibera is to make sure that there is a modern sewage with a proper capacity. This has not been there. So we have to invest in that kind of infrastructure. And that is how we will start altering Kibera, and Kibera can even hold even more people. It can hold more people if we did the necessary infrastructure to allow the whole aspect of sanitation to be managed better. We can do more. And this is what we need to invest in our urban area. So that is what is happening in Kasarani, in Mathare, in all these areas. We have to look at it from that context. And in the process, counties like Kiambu, Machakos, Kajiado are also feeling the pressure of this growth. And therefore, when we look at the investments, we are looking at the metropolis area and we see how we intervene in that space. So we have some work to do. And I really want to appeal to this committee to lend us support as we move forward. The issue of the how, the question that keeps coming up and again. We may have a series of very consecutive meetings initially for purposes of setting the framework in place. But after that, for instance, the Joint Steering Committee, we are not implementers. It becomes an oversight role to take stock of, this can be maybe now a quarterly session. But the implementing committee chaired by the governor has got to be more hands-on than anybody else. He has to work with his technical team, and the technical team in City Hall must work with the technical teams of the various ministries. If it is energy, they work together. If it is roads, they work together. Aspects of the budget. You have raised a few important points that this needs to be properly captured, especially as we are coming into the new financial year. And I take that as a very, very urgent issue that needs to be addressed, so that in those very critical stages of budgeting for the country, highlights of this are captured appropriately, so that it does not seem to be like a hanging intervention. So that is a very important message that we take. Now, each ministry has got a budget line. That is why these ministries play a role in the steering committee or in the implementation committee. For instance, if it is roads, and this is where the distinction is coming, we are not taking the money and just giving it away. Under the Public Finance and Management Act, we must also be compliant. So in all this expenditure arrangement with this corporation, one thing that we must not lose sight of is the PFM Act. So that whatever program, whatever project is undertaken, it is in tandem with the law. So that, again, I guarantee, is one of the things that we want to ensure. I do agree with you that the PPP Act or unit needs a lot of review in terms of their approach. And it's not just necessarily in the context of county governments, but even in other areas. We've had expressions of frustration of potential investors within the PPP framework who are either not getting decisions or the process is taking too long, or there's some opaqueness around the arrangement of the PPP framework. So I think that is something that is valid, and we can jointly look at it in the context of not just specific to projects, but also the legal framework around the PPP. There was something to do with devolution and where it is domiciled. It is a department that is under the supervision of the Deputy President as we speak. But the Deputy President is not a cabinet secretary. So today I'm here as the Prime Cabinet Secretary to speak for the Devolution Department. And we have the Secretary here with us in that context. But let me put it this way, it's the whole of government approach. So we will collaborate and work together. I don't know if I've missed out anything. If I have, my colleagues will help me in dealing. But maybe I should just say, as before the legal man intervenes, the lawyer, Jan Ameo, since this is the Urban and City Areas and Cities Act is a law of Parliament, if Parliament saw it fit to amend that law, then we would go back